Hey, yo, what's up? I'm Josh Martinez from the Superstar Crossover Podcast on iHeartRadio and Z100 with our guest, AEW Everything, Tony Khan. What's up, man?
Hey, well, I'm definitely not everything. I think the wrestling and the wrestling fans are everything. I just am an executive.
You know, I could have CEO, executive, owner. I could have ran down the list. I just say everything. Successful Wrestle Dream pay-per-view event the other night in St. Louis.
Thank you.
Was there one particular match that you were most excited about when it was over?
At the end of the show, I was thrilled to have gotten through a great event. So I would say the main event, to have an I Quit match with Jon Moxley, Darby Allin, and to know both of them are going to be okay. They'll both be competing in wrestling in the future, and that we had a great event. And when the final bell rang, that was a great night. It was a great return for the Icon Sting to AEW, and a hard-hitting fight and a great I Quit match between Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. So I was really happy about that. But start to finish, I loved it. I thought it was a great event. It's one of my favorite shows we've ever done, and that's why I'm excited to come and talk to you. And now we're just hours away from Wednesday Night Dynamite, which is going to be a great show. And we have some exciting things coming on that show, coming out of this Wrestle Dream pay-per-view. So perfect time for me to return here to studio and see this nice new room that you host the show in.
So Chris Statlander retained her title against Toni Storm. We saw that Mercedes Moné became the interim Ring of Honor TV champion. So she has 12 titles now. The gauntlet was put down for the next pay-per-view event between Statlander and Moné. Do we know yet if it's going to be a winner-take-all strictly for the World Heavyweight Women's title?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, the challenge has been put out by Mercedes to the world champion, Chris Statlander. I think it would be a great world title fight. Chris Statlander is a fighting champion. Mercedes has taken on belts from all over the world, so we'll have to see. But with all the commitments Mercedes taken on, I think it's really impressive. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. That shows it's not about pure greed and money for Mercedes, because a lot of these places she's wrestling, Winnipeg, Canada, Denmark, they're not the highest paying places. She's not really making money from these. She loves wrestling. She loves building up companies. She loves meeting new young stars, and she really cares about the craft and the sport of wrestling, and it's about a competition. So as a competitor, she wants to go out and fight all over the world. I think that Chris Statlander is somebody who has been fighting in AEW from the very, very beginning. She worked really hard to get a world title shot, and then she went a long time without a world title shot. She has been the TBS champion, but she worked her way up to the very top of the profession, became the world champion. And Mercedes in the past has had Chris Statlander's number. So I think that would potentially be a great world title fight for AEW Full Gear. And I'm excited about Full Gear coming back here to your territory, or at least close by.
So Full Gear next month, November 23rd?
22nd.
22nd, okay.
Yes.
So I do have a question and a concern as a fan who attends said Full Gear. This will be my third year going. The event the other night ended at 12:30 in the morning. A lot of people kind of were opinionated on the end time from the East Coast, at least. Are we going to see another 12:30 finish at Full Gear? Do we know? Is there a hard curfew?
It was 11:29 in St. Louis,
which is important to mention, that the city you were in was Central Time Zone.
Right.
You just have my schmuck ass sitting on the couch at 12:30, like, I want to sleep, but I can't not watch Moxley Darby.
It was awesome, and in the local time, I thought it made sense. And here in the local time, we'll definitely be out well before midnight, and be out in Eastern time here. So it's different time zones. But I absolutely loved the Wrestle Dream show start to finish, and I thought we had such a great night and put so much great action in the show. And I wouldn't have changed a single thing about Wrestle Dream. It's one of my favorite AEW events ever, pound for pound, especially with some injuries and some top stars away. I thought this was the absolute best show we were capable of putting on. So I'm more proud of what we did at Wrestle Dream, probably at least since the pandemic, of any show we've done.
That's a bold statement. I like that. Doubling down. A big angle that happened, we talked about this off air, Samoa Joe, the Ops, kind of turning to the dark side, if you will. How important is someone like Samoa Joe to the All Elite Wrestling roster?
Samoa Joe is a huge, huge part of AEW, and I think Samoa Joe is a really important part of professional wrestling. In my lifetime, Samoa Joe is one of the greatest professional wrestlers I've seen. I was so excited, and we've been so blessed to get Samoa Joe into AEW. He's been with us now for 3.5 years, and he's accomplished so much. He has a resume in AEW that's different than anyone else. He's a multiple-time TNT champion. He's a former AEW World Champion, and now he's 1/3 of the AEW World Trios Champions with the Ops. They've been a dominant trio, and we definitely saw the face of the Ops change completely when it came to Hangman Page and the world title, because Hangman Page has been such a great world champion, and in order for Hangman Page to get that opportunity and get a fair fight, the Ops were always in Hangman's corner. They always had Hangman's back. They always fought side by side. And after Hangman versus Samoa Joe at WrestleDream, that's what it looked like to everybody was going to be the case going forward. It looked like these four men have so much respect for each other. They've been through so much together, and they're going to keep fighting side by side. But obviously, following what was a great world title match, Hangman versus Samoa Joe at WrestleDream, that's not the case, that the Ops are supportive at all of Hangman Page. And I think going forward, it's a very different relationship between the world champion, Hangman Page, and the world trios champions, the Ops.
So last week, Samoa Joe in a podcast, and my apologies for not citing the podcast, that's on me, kind of alluded to the fact that at the end of this contract, he may retire. If he were to retire from in-ring competition, how valuable would someone like him be to kind of the behind-the-scenes factor, or maybe from a training session with the younger performers?
Hugely valuable. Samoa Joe is already one of the top mentors in AEW, and anybody who steps in the ring with Samoa Joe learns a lot, and anybody who gets the tutelage of Samoa Joe in AEW learns a lot. I think Powerhouse Hobbs is a great example of somebody who is currently learning a lot from Samoa Joe that will benefit him throughout the rest of his career. I know he's learning, to quote Samoa Joe, life lessons that will be with him for the rest of his life. And I am very, very proud to have Samoa Joe in AEW, and I'm very optimistic that eventually, whenever Samoa Joe does decide to retire from the ring, I'm very hopeful and optimistic that Samoa Joe will stay with us in AEW and be a mentor to the wrestlers. Not unlike Bryan Danielson, who is still a huge part of AEW, even though he's not actively competing in the ring. He's been now for 1 year away from wrestling since WrestleDream last year, but he's still a huge part of AEW and continues to be. And my hope is that Samoa Joe will stay with us in AEW forever.
So we're approaching the end of the year of AEW. Earlier this year, you guys kind of changed the way the TV presentation was in regards to the venues, which I thought was dope. I genuinely enjoy different venues. No building kind of looks the same. I think that's a really cool approach. Hell, even starting WrestleDream the other day, you guys started with a match already in the ring, pyro going off. Just these little things to set yourself apart from other companies across the world.
It was like I said, with some of the top wrestling stars were away, and I said, I'm going to make this the best possible show, and everyone's going to say WrestleDream was the greatest event AEW could put on, and it's going to be about the people who are here, and they're going to love this event. And that's how I felt at times in the lockdown and the pandemic. If anybody wasn't available, we would be creative. We would come up with the very best shows we could possibly put on in a unique environment. And that's how I felt about WrestleDream. So we tried a lot of things at WrestleDream, and I really felt like it was very successful. I don't think anybody had, to the best of my recollection, to the best of my knowledge, had ever had an event carry over into the...
Not from a pre-show to pay-per-view.
Right.
That I know.
And we've changed it now where I don't consider it even technically, and it's all subjective. These are all terms of art, and I don't consider it a typical pre-show anymore, because now it's AEW Collision, the tailgate brawl on TNT. The only times I can ever remember in wrestling where you had a major top cable network carrying a show that leads into the pay-per-view feed would be in the late 90s. You had WCW Main Event would lead into the WCW pay-per-views. And then for a long time on USA, there was Sunday Night Heat leading into the pay-per-views. But I don't think anybody on any kind of pre-show, and certainly not on the TV, had ever had a match that carried across. There's a huge emphasis now on the tailgate brawl internally in AEW, because that's an episode of Collision, and it's a super important piece of real estate. Not only a chance to sell the upcoming pay-per-view, but Collision and Dynamite are massively important to AEW. That relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery across our pay-per-view events on HBO Max, and Collision on TNT and HBO Max, and of course Dynamite on TBS and HBO Max. That's the lifeblood of AEW. And so to have an episode of Collision on TNT and HBO Max carrying into this pay-per-view, and we just started doing pay-per-views on HBO Max, this is a big opportunity. So I wanted to do something very different and unique and tell people you have to watch these tailgate brawls leading in. They are a huge part of the event. This isn't a pre-show. This is a new era, and this is a new opportunity for AEW to have a tailgate brawl on such a prestigious place as TNT and HBO Max as a great way to lead into the pay-per-view.
So you guys have done Mexico, Canada, Australia, the UK this year alone. Over the next 12 to 24 months, let's say, are there some aspirations or even buildings that you want to go to around the world that maybe you have not gone to or maybe went to maybe once or twice?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to go back to Australia, and I'm continued really excitement about going back to Australia and seeing new places in Australia. We had a great debut in Brisbane, and I'm excited to go back to Australia and visit more cities over the coming years, and also to go tour Europe more extensively, because as you said, we've been to the UK, we're going back, we're going to debut in Manchester later this year.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to bring the Continental Classic to Manchester and back to Cardiff, which is a great venue for us, but Manchester will be a new city like you asked about. And then next year, I think, particularly in Europe, there can be more opportunities. We're definitely going back to London next year. Everyone knows that. I'm very excited to bring AEW All In back to Wembley Stadium, which has been a great home to my family. We had a challenging weekend there. Everybody in my family but me was at Wembley this weekend while I was there for Wrestle Dream. But I'm excited for us all to go back to Wembley for AEW and have another great AEW All In where we set the world record, as AEW has the world record for pro wrestling ticket sales with over 81,000 tickets sold at Wembley Stadium for AEW All In.
So I'm just biased because I'm here in New York City. You have Full Gear coming up in November. However, last year around the holidays, you were like a mile from where we are right now, Hammerstein Ballroom. Is that something that we can expect again? Maybe, maybe not. Do we have any ideas on specifically New York City proper?
I really loved that, and those made for great holiday shows. It was pretty cool being home for Christmas and being able to put on that Dynamite on 34th Street on Christmas night.
Ring of Honor pay-per-view as well.
We had a great Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and Christmas Collision also was one of the biggest successes of the year for us. They put on Collision live after the college football playoff game at Hammerstein. The environment in the back was amazing because it was so much, in a good way, pressure, because you're going on after one of the biggest sporting events in the country. It's going to be one of the biggest audiences we're going to get all year, and we took advantage of it. We kicked the show off with a Continental Classic fight between Will Ospreay and Ricochet, and it was one of the best matches we had on TV, and it was one of our best shows. Christmas Collision was a great event, and it really performed very well for us. So the idea of coming back for Christmas Collision and Dynamite on 34th Street in particular, it's enticing for sure, so stay tuned.
Love that. Now, listen, at the end of the day, I'll be the first to admit, I'm just a wrestling fan. You were a wrestling fan as well. That's why you got into the industry. So I do have, I'm curious. People watching this are curious. I'm just going to bring up some names.
Sure.
And you just got to let us know what's up with them. We'll call that, what's up with so-and-so.
Sure.
So first person I want to know, what's up with Adam Copeland? There's some rumors about him and let you allowing him to do one more match and all these weird rumors. What's up with Adam Copeland that he's not around?
I hope Adam Copeland has a lot more matches in AEW. Adam Copeland's a huge part of AEW. We just had a great AEW All Out event, and it was great for a lot of people, but in many ways, what should have been a great homecoming for Christian Cage and Adam Copeland was marred by FTR. FTR attacking Beth Copeland. They conducted themselves very unbecomingly. Not sportsmanlike at all, and not the way to treat somebody who's been a friend of yours. And Adam Copeland's a huge part of AEW. Adam's out filming right now.
Got it.
He's a huge star in AEW. We love having Adam Copeland, the Rated R superstar, in AEW, and I'm excited for him to be back in AEW, hopefully soon after this project is done, and he's taking care of business, and then Adam will come back, and we'll get Adam Copeland taking care of the business in the ring in AEW.
So there's this weird rumor that, you know, basically Adam Copeland is leaving AEW to do one more match with John Cena. That's why that question came up. But what's up with Andrade?
Well, Andrade El Idolo was a great wrestler in AEW, and he left at the end of World's End 23, at the end of 2023. I gave, actually here in New York, a press conference at the Scrum, and I said, I think Andrade El Idolo is a great wrestler. He's leaving AEW on a very high note, and he's leaving on the best of terms. And all of that is true, and I have a ton of respect for him. And I can't say much more other than to say that I'm very excited to see what happens next with Andrade. I love the guy very much, and I have a lot of respect for him.
What's up with Britt Baker?
Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker,
Yep,
DMD. And what a great star in AEW Dr. Britt Baker has been. And she is still a fantastic, fantastic wrestling star. And she's been away from AEW for a while, but still very much with us. And at some point, hopefully soon, I'd love to see Dr. Britt Baker come back.
And lastly, what's up with Chris Jericho?
Chris Jericho, talk about one of the founding figures in AEW, the very first ever AEW champion. We're so grateful to Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho is somebody also that I would love to see back in AEW anytime. The door is always open to get Chris Jericho back in here, and he's been busy. He's doing a lot of things. It's speaking of somebody that's very busy with projects, including filming and music, and somebody we have a ton of respect for. And Chris Jericho is somebody else we'd love to see anytime in AEW.
So lastly, one of the final questions I have, I mentioned before, I'm a fan. You've been a fan your whole life. You still are, obviously. Now, this is a little out of the realm of what we discuss within All Elite Wrestling, but I think it has to be asked because it's a pretty big deal in the news of wrestling. What would you say is John Cena's legacy to pro wrestling as the fan Tony Khan?
Wow. I wasn't expecting that, but it's a great question. John Cena is absolutely a legendary pro wrestler who came into the space and became a huge star very quickly on television because he has so much charisma and he's one of the hardest working people, as far as I know, in pro wrestling. I've never actually met John Cena, and I have a ton of respect for him as a wrestler. He seems like a wonderful person. Everybody I know that's worked with John Cena has only the very, very best things to say about him. And he's known for being the utmost professional. I think he's also a very, very talented actor. I'm a huge fan of the Peacemaker show on HBO Max. AEW Full Gear is presented by DC. DC being the presenting sponsor, we had a great partnership going with DC. So even though I've never worked with John Cena in any wrestling capacity, we are partners now with DC. So that may be as close as we ever get. But I think that he's absolutely fantastic in the ring, and he seems fantastic out of the ring. Certainly on screen, one of the all-time greats. And he came into the wrestling business after many of the top stars were either getting ready to retire or entering the final phase of their career, and he really stepped up as one of the biggest wrestling stars of all time. And even though I've never met him or talked to him, I have a ton of respect for him.
So this is the Road to Full Gear, which is happening at the Prudential Center in Newark, November 22nd. What can we expect from right now till Full Gear on AEW TV?
You can expect the very best of AEW. Right now, we're coming off AEW Wrestle Dream. There were so many exciting developments, awesome matches, but also rivalries and big changes in AEW. We've got a huge Wednesday Night Dynamite coming up. It's on the Superstation TBS, and it's going to be on HBO Max this Wednesday night. Again, very, very soon, hours away, 8 p.m., Wednesday Night Dynamite. There's a tradition of wrestling on TBS that goes back over 50 years. And every Wednesday night we're on TBS. I am so proud to be able to keep that tradition going. And I'm very proud that we are now the longest running primetime pro wrestling show ever on TBS or TNT. And we're doing it this Wednesday on TBS with the Ops. We were just talking about the Ops, the World Trios champions. They will be defending the titles against the number one contenders who earned that shot with a win at Wrestle Dream, the Hurt Syndicate. The Hurt Syndicate have come into AEW. They have been fantastic stars. They have gotten a lot of buzz in AEW. They won the World Tag Team Championships. They were an undefeated tag team for a long time, undefeated in competition. They'd never been pinned. And the only group that had gotten the best of them at times had been the Demand, the Gates of Agony, the GOA, and Ricochet. There's been great matches in that rivalry. Ricochet versus Shelton Benjamin, outstanding. Gates of Agony, GOA versus Hurt Syndicate, great tag team matches, and the trilogy of trios matches, culminating in the Tornado Trios match at Wrestle Dream this past weekend. The Hurt Syndicate with the win have earned a chance at the World Trios Championship, and the Trios champions are the Ops. We saw a major shift in the Ops demeanor and mindset at Wrestle Dream, and I'm so excited for this Wednesday to have the Ops defending the World Trios title versus the Hurt Syndicate. And you know there's going to be people watching this closely. The world champion Hangman Page, Ricochet, The Demand, a lot of people with a lot, a lot of interest, and certainly we'll be watching this one closely. But I know fans all over the world are going to want to see the Hurt Syndicate versus the Ops for the World Trios title this Wednesday night.
And I know I said one last question, but I did just think of one. In about 30 seconds or less, what are your thoughts? The Darby Allin, Jon Moxley match we saw finish Wrestle Dream.
What a fantastic match. I absolutely loved it. I'm so glad that both men are okay. I was glad to see Sting back in AEW.
By the way, that all-white look, he looks so much more badass than ever before.
He looks cool.
I don't know if it's like Santa's thing. I don't know. I don't care what it's going to be called. The all-white looks so badass.
Old man Sting is just as dangerous as ever, and now maybe even more menacing. It looks really cool. It was a great match. I'm very happy that Jon Moxley had this fantastic I Quit match with Darby Allin. I'm very happy for Darby Allin that hopefully he got some closure to that chapter with Jon Moxley and that he was able to come back from Mount Everest in one piece. And I'm glad that Jon Moxley and Darby Allin made it out of this match, both in one piece. And I'm very proud to have Jon Moxley and, of course, Darby Allin, the winner of the I Quit match, here in AEW.
Well, one more time, Tony Khan, appreciate you stopping by, bro.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. And while I'm at it, if I may plug one more thing.
Of course, by all means.
I absolutely loved the World Tag Team Championship match. The IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Konosuke Takeshita, and AEW Unified Champion, Kazuchika Okada, versus the AEW World Tag Team Champions, Brody King, and the Ring of Honor World Champion, Bandito. And you've got all these great champions and championships in one great match, and it was an amazing title fight. I think it was the longest match of the evening. Some people, it was even their favorite match of the evening. It was a great fight. And now, after getting the win and after becoming, I believe, only the third person in all these years ever in AEW ever to get a win over Okada, putting him in pretty rare air, very rare company. I believe Bryan Danielson and Kyle Fletcher are the only other people ever to get any kind of win against Okada in AEW. Bandito pinned the almost unpinnable with Okada. The unified champion has been on such an unprecedented run since winning the Continental Classic. He had been completely dominant. In 2025, nobody has gotten the best of Okada.
Not even Kenny Omega?
Not even the great Kenny Omega at AEW All In Texas. And now Okada has unified the Continental title and the International title. It's a one-on-one match. It's going to be a great fight. There's going to be no outside interference. This is just going to be an awesome one-on-one wrestling match. I can promise there will be a winner. It will be an awesome match. Bandito versus Okada one-on-one on Wednesday Night Dynamite. And coming out of that tag team fight, that's a match I know I personally really want to see, Okada versus Bandito on Dynamite. And I think a lot of the fans are going to be excited for that as well. I'm also very excited about revealing the Women's World Tag Team Championship bracket on Wednesday Night Dynamite and revealing who these top tag teams in AEW are going to be competing for the Women's World Tag Team titles coming very soon, too. So a lot of exciting things on this show, and it's just hours away at 8 p.m. Wednesday night on TBS or HBO Max.
Bang. There's no way I could close it after that, so we're done.
Thanks.